Hello, everyone. We're still dealing with snow in Iowa today, but the bigger story for most of us is going to be the wind and the cold. And for some of us, that is already the big story. Let's start at 8 a.m. this morning, and we're looking at scattered snow shower activity still in the eastern part of the state. In the western part of the state, I'm still going to mention the chance for some flurries during the morning hours. The model usually doesn't pick up on that lightest shade of snow. So I'm going to mention flurry activity for western Iowa, but legitimate snow still coming down for the morning commute, particularly in and around the Quad Cities, and still some pockets of heavy snow as well. Also, look at temperatures. 11 in Davenport, but minus 16 in Sioux City. So let's go through the day. By 11 a.m., we're just looking at isolated snow shower activity in the eastern part of the state, and we're probably going to be done with the flurries, certainly in the western part, maybe state, maybe still some flurries in central Iowa at this point. Let's talk about wind. So in the western part of the state, again, we're looking at our extremes in here, and in the central part of the state in between, but we're talking about in western Iowa, gusts around 40 miles per hour, 11 a.m. this morning. Meanwhile, in and around the Quad Cities, it'll just be breezy. Not much wind this morning, but gusts around 25 by the time we get to 11 a.m. And then as we get into the mid-afternoon hours, I think we'll be done with the flurry activity by 3 o'clock for western and central Iowa, and then there'll be the zone of flurry activity around the Quad Cities in the most eastern part of the state, but the legitimate accumulation over with at this point. And I think all the flurry activity is going to come to an end by 7 o'clock this evening, but look how temperatures just keep coming down. This is 7 o'clock this evening, and the winds are going up in the eastern part of the state. They may finally come down in the western part of the state, but pretty uniform winds across the state. 7 o'clock this evening, gusts 30, 35 miles per hour, and notice how everyone below zero temperatures. But with that wind, look what it's going to be feeling like 7 o'clock this evening. Feels like temperatures for most minus 30, minus 35, but look at that, Mason City almost hitting minus 40. Feeling absolutely terrible. And this is potentially dangerous cold. Again, I gotta stress that when you're talking about these kind of feels like temperatures, minus 32 as cold as minus 40, frostbite can occur in just 10 to 20 minutes. So if you have to venture out, particularly tonight, absolutely layer up, hats and gloves, take it seriously. And the good news here, if you're looking for good news, is we're basically just going to see this all night long. I know I'm showing you 7 o'clock this evening, but basically our temperatures are just going to flatline and the winds aren't going to change very much for the night. We're going to mainly see those gusts hanging out 30, 35 miles per hour. So we're just going to be dealing with these feels like temperatures all of Thursday night and into early Friday morning. So it doesn't get any worse, but it doesn't get any better either until a little bit Friday afternoon. Before we talk more about Friday, let's talk about how much snow is left. And again, in the western part of the state, just because it's going to be flurry activity, we'll call a trace of snow, maybe a tenth of an inch in Mason City or Waterloo, but the legitimate additional accumulation by the time we get to, again, all of the flurry activity coming to an end 7 o'clock this evening in and around the Quad Cities. We're looking at about an inch in Iowa City and around an inch and a half, it looks like, for the Quad Cities and around Burlington before it all comes to an end. But though no new snow is going to be coming down after 7 o'clock, it may seem like it's still snowing through tomorrow. Because of all the snow that is on the ground, it's going to be picked up by the wind and blown around. So visibilities are still going to be reduced. It's still going to seem like it's snowing, even though the snow will technically be over. So blowing snow tonight and through the day tomorrow. And though we'll start out tomorrow morning with those gusts around 35 miles per hour. So Friday afternoon, the winds are going to be crazy across the state. In western Iowa, gusts around 50 miles per hour, but not much different in the eastern part of the state. In fact, I think the strongest winds will be in eastern Iowa. I do think we're looking at gusts getting up to 55 miles per hour briefly Friday afternoon. When you're talking about gusts 50 to 55 miles per hour, that's enough to bring down tree branches in spots. It's also enough to bring down power lines. So we are looking at isolated power outages across the state, which is absolutely what we don't want to hear when we're dealing with these cold temperatures as well. These are our high temperatures Friday afternoon. No better than 1-2 degrees, and some are not going to get above zero. But when you're talking about this kind of wind, look what it's going to be feeling like Friday afternoon. This is as warm as it's going to feel on Friday. Most of us around minus 25 to minus 30. Notice no warmer than minus 34 in Mason City.